And I want to say a huge thank you to Bryanna for showing up today. Just for a little bit of background, Bryanna is a board certified music therapist and health professional specializing in pediatric, palliative, and hospice care in the greater Boston area. She has a distinct interest in equitable health delivery, end-of-life care, grief and program development, and has a passion for community-focused care. She serves as a clinician, clinical supervisor, and adjunct professor. So I'm going to pass things off to Bryanna, and then after that, we have some time for Q&A and an open discussion about art, music, and healing. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course, thank you so much for the introduction. I am so excited to be here. It's amazing to see so many new faces, familiar faces, and I am really excited for this conversation because there is so many directions we can go, and I always find that to be the most exciting. So we'll kind of start off a little bit. I'll give a little bit of a background about myself, a little introduction to what music therapy is, what it can look like, what it sometimes looks like, and what we can kind of focus our time and energy in the wellness and healing space as we're having our conversation today. Before I jump in though, I just want to double check audio. I'm having a little bit of an AirPod issue, so I want to make sure, can you all hear me all right with just a thumbs up? Awesome, great. And I'm going to share my screen, so just give me 1 second here and we'll jump right in. Okay. So when I am in this mode, I can't see the chat. So anything that you send in the chat, please send a million things in the chat, but I will see them once I close down the presentation and we start kind of our discussion portion. With that being said, if you have kind of like a timely question, if you're like, wait, can you explain that further? Jump right in. I'll try to kind of take it slow and we can unpack this stuff together. So new year, same me, music, wellness, mindfulness, and healing, all the topics that I think we want to touch on today. First and foremost, I am Bryanna Tobin. You can call me Bree, you can call me Bryanna. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a board certified music therapist, and right now I work at an organization called Good Shepherd Community Care. Work in the greater Boston area and serve patients through different home care services with a primary focus on hospice care and pediatric palliative care. I am also a neurologic music therapist, which is a specialty within the field of music therapy. That just means that I have a little bit of extra training in regards to the understanding of neuro pathways as it relates to rehabilitation and motor movement with patients going through different overcoming obstacles that may have arisen because of traumatic brain injuries, strokes, anything that may require a really intense focus on the connection between neuro pathways and physical rehabilitation. That's kind of a synopsis of neurologic music therapy. But more than anything, I specialize in hospice and palliative care. That looks like complex care with kiddos and with adults at varying stages of their lives. We often kind of talk about hospice or talk about palliative care, and it creates this little hole, like seed, like almost like a discomfort that kind of sits right maybe in the center of our chests. Why do we talk, why is there such a taboo in a lot of cultures about discussing death? In a lot of cultures, it is embraced, it is a process of life. And in kind of the society we live in here in the US, it is an element that sits taboo with us on our minds. So it's okay if, as I talk about this, you may feel like, oh, like, okay, what are we getting into here? Like this may be, it could bring up things for you in your experience in life. And please, everybody, make sure you're taking care of yourselves as we talk about these. We're not going to go deep into hospice or palliative care, but I think it's an important element of myself as a clinician to bring that in here. So specialize in hospice and palliative care. I'm also an adjunct professor. I'm a clinical supervisor for internship level, bachelor's level music therapy students. A lot of my work is focused on grief, wellness, family systems, and equity, equitable delivery of services, looking at systems and looking at service delivery and how we can figure out like, okay, this is our end goal. How are we going to get there through actual practice, actual clinical interactions with families and individuals in really sensitive times of their lives? And that often is in end of life care and bereavement. So although I'm working with students, we in my clinical supervisory role and in my professorial role, most and pretty much all of my time is devoted to service delivery directly with families and individuals in end of life care, chronic illness, or terminal illness situations, and through the bereavement process. So what is music therapy? You know, what does that actually even mean? Okay, lady, like you've arrived here. I understand I can use music in therapeutic ways, but what does it look like? Does it count if I go to a concert and I am feeling the really intense experience of existing kind of doused in the musical experience with other individuals? What about when you are using an instrument to create songs on your own? Or what if you are around maybe a baby, like in this photo, and they are exploring an instrument or they're exploring something and maybe making a banging sound or playing on pots and pans, like a lot of people, I know I did when I was little. I'd take out the pots and pans and be like, all right, let's go. Rock band here, we're doing this. So what is it and what can it look like? And the answer is it is and can be all of these things. So the clinical definition of music therapy is that it's an evidence-based practice in which music is used as a collaborative medium to accomplish musical and or non-musical goals. Now, I will say a lot of the time it is non-musical goals. Using music interventions as a way to engage in a collaborative relationship with another person to accomplish maybe a communication goal, maybe a physical goal. It could be a cognitive, behavioral, any really kind of spectrum of things goal. It's used to actively support people as they strive to improve their health, functioning, and well-being. So in my role, in my current position, and as someone who specializes in pediatric complex care, I may work with kiddos under the age of 19 who have any number of diagnoses, any number of levels of access to the material world, any number of ways that they communicate with others. And we work together as a family unit, as a community unit, and be directly with the individual to determine what those goals of care are going to be. Because music therapy is an evidence-based practice, it is interventions, it is creating structured spaces of engagement to accomplish those goals. We have to have something we're striving for. So some examples are motivation, decreased feelings of isolation, managing distress, social interaction supports, subjective well-being, fear and anxiety management, self-expression, developmental skills support, relaxation. I mean, this list can kind of go on and on and on and on. And it really depends on the person. Everything is really highly individualized. And it depends on what you are hoping to achieve. What is your goal of care? So here's our goal of care and how are we going to get there? And as a music therapist, my role is to come in to the space, assess, get greater understanding from a family or community unit and an individual, and then be able to work as a part and support of that family unit and individual and community unit to work towards achieving those goals. And for anybody who's kind of like really into the nitty gritty, like myself, I thought this was pretty helpful to, add in here. A lot of our data in music therapy can be pulled as qualitative, right? I can tell you a million anecdotes if you want about how we've seen really, really amazing things happen within music therapy sessions, but also within the individual's life in transferable skills, in family units, in community spaces, in spaces of healing, in spaces of expression. All of these amazing stories that have so much breadth to them, but also we have a ton of quantitative data. And this is just an example of kind of how music and the brain works together. So you can see here the various parts of the brain that are used to perceive basic acoustic features of music, focusing and keeping track of music in time, higher order musical features, music evoked emotions, and experiencing pleasure and reward, as well as a couple others. I won't go through all of them. One of the reasons that music therapy can be so effective for individuals is because it's almost taking a back door to accomplish whatever the goal is. So if somebody is working on a physical rehabilitation goal and they are somebody who maybe has a traumatic brain injury, and physical therapy is maybe working to an extent with this individual, we can bring in, if indicated, bring in a music therapist who works with the individual, works with the physical therapist, and works with the family unit to determine how music will be used to support those physical goals. So that may look like an individual working on their gait. Maybe they're walking down a hallway and working on the steps in rhythm of their walking. Now, hard thing to do, especially when you're kind of rewiring your brain to do an action that may for some of us feel rudimentary, but it's not for everyone. So as someone's maybe learning how to re-engage their brain to learn this behavior again, or for the first time, if you're talking about a child or an infant, we can use music as a way to support that goal by providing rhythmic stimulation, by providing musical stimulation. Maybe while that person is walking down the hallway, their music therapist is walking with them with a drum or with a guitar and singing with them, making a song alongside them and keeping time next to them so that their brain uses this back door to connect with that rhythm, to strengthen those neuro connections to then help their gait stabilize a bit. It's pretty amazing when you see these things in action. And of course, we're not going to go super deep into it, but I could talk about this for hours. So please, if you're interested, I'll send you all the YouTube videos. But how can we use music? So, right, we're here and we now know a little bit about music therapy, know a little bit about me. I know a little bit about all of you and maybe your preferred mediums, the ways in which you create art in the world. How do we bring music in to not only assist in our creation, but to assist in our self-care, in our process, in a world in which everybody is carrying their own backpack of grief and loss. At any given moment, they are processing any number of things going on in their lives. How can we use it as a medium for healing? Now, of course, it's not a magic bean. You're not gonna like listen to a song and be like, oh, everything's great and rosy and daisies and woo. But how can we use music as a really active medium to bring ourselves into a space where we can actively process and come to a space of wellness and healing, especially in this new year? So I now kind of want to open the floor up to all of you. And I'm wondering, how do you use music? This could be in your practice, it can be in your personal life, it can be to whatever extent that you're willing to share. I'd love to hear about what music is like in your life and how you use it.